I'm Dana Austin, and this is Next Level Awareness.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Austin, and you are listening to the Next Level Awareness podcast, where we have conversations on a wide range of topics in order to pass on knowledge to others that will hopefully expand your mind in areas that you maybe didn't even know existed. I'm starting a series today on I'll be talking to business owners, sharing their stories about building a business, why they chose their particular field, and some of the challenges that they may have faced along the way and how they overcame those things. I posted looking for guests, and the response here has been overwhelming. So I'm really excited to get started. And today I am talking to Heather Rodriguez, and your company name is Sourdough Mafia Co. Is
Yes.
that right? Did I say that right?
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here to talk to me today. I just wanted to kind of introduce you to everyone. And so tell me about your business. What do you do?
I basically just teach people how to make their own sourdough at home, but it's all virtual, which I feel like is a little bit of a twist as opposed to what people are normally doing out there. I see a lot of in-person classes, but mine is completely virtual, so they can do it in the comfort of their own home at their own time, whatever's convenient for them.
Okay, so what kind of do you have is it all on their own time? So it's all just virtual, and do you have Zoom, like live Zooms or anything like that, or do you just
So it's done in a Facebook group. I have a
okay,
private Facebook group that I do each month because I'm running one every single month for the last
okay.
year about. And in this group, I do three different live videos, and those are recorded so they can go back and watch them, at any time. Sometimes people join in live and they'll ask questions. Other times people are watching it like at midnight if that's when they finally have a free minute to watch a video. And it's interactive. I mean, I have people messaging me all the time about, what should I do now? I have a question on how this dough looks, things like that. So it's definitely still one-on-one, um, hands-on experience. They get one-on-one help, all of those things, but it's just virtual.
Okay, that's cool. So, how did you get into doing sourdough classes?
So I've always been a baker. Like cooking is not my thing, but I can bake. I used to do wedding cakes when I was first married, like 20 years ago. And that was fun. And I, kind of left that after a while, thanks to some crazy bridezillas. That is definitely not for me. But then when the sourdough trend kind of started getting some steam, I was like, everybody in my house loves sourdough. I love sourdough. I should learn how to make this. And I started making it, and everyone, of course, still loved it. Um, and I always feel like my brain is in business mode. I'm always creating some kind of business, working a business, doing something. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I've always had a side hustle for like 20 plus years for, different
Hmm.
things. Um, and I thought I could totally teach people how to make this, and make it easy, break it down. Because I mean, if you look at Google or all of the other people doing sourdough, it can get overwhelming. There's like so many different ways on how to make sourdough, what you
Yes.
should be feeding your starter, just a lot of information. And people just look at that and they're like, never mind, it's too much, info. So I'm really big on just simplifying things and making it easy for them. Um, and so I thought, I could make this a business, and I kind of drew out how I would want the course to run. And then I just started advertising in my local community and in some other communities that I've either visited or I have family in. So I'm part of their, Facebook groups as well. And it took off pretty well.
That's awesome. I actually I understand exactly what you're saying about all of that because I decided, I don't know, several months ago to try this whole sourdough thing because from one of the things that I got out of it is I've heard that it's better for people that maybe have digestive problems or the fermentation of the dough and the yeast and all of that stuff. It like giving it more time breaks it down so that your body can digest it easier. And that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to get into like trying to make it. But you're right. I mean, you Google, I have that I don't remember what the book is called, but I have the book from the guy that's like the sourdough Bible or whatever it is. I'm not really, I don't
I
remember,
haven't heard of
honestly.
it.
It's like, it's the one from the guy who has the sourdough company in San Francisco or whatever that's really big. And it's like, what I realize is it's not, I've been cooking for since I was a kid, and it's nothing to just follow a recipe. But a
Right.
sourdough recipe is not exactly like a traditional recipe. There's so
No.
many steps involved, and a lot of it comes down to timing and temperature and all of that stuff. So there's so many variables involved in it that I can see where it would be overwhelming for people. And then, there's so many groups out there, and then you've got the people who are just like, you have to follow exactly how it says. You cannot stray from the exact directions, at this time you have to add and I'm just like, and then I see other people go, yeah, I take my starter out of the fridge cold, I dump the stuff in, I wait, and then I bake it, and it's just like, so I think it can go, there's a big spectrum of easy to
True.
hard, right? You can overcomplicate it as much as you want. So I actually just did finish baking some bread last night. I don't think it turned out that great, but it's edible. So
Okay. I always say as long as it tastes good, that's a win. Like who
right.
cares? Beyond that, it's just maybe a bonus if it looks nice. But as long as it
Yeah.
tastes good, you're doing good. But yeah,
Right.
it definitely is a big spectrum, and I'm in all of the different Facebook groups, and some of them can just be downright like rude to people
Yeah.
if you don't follow things perfectly. I run my own Facebook education group for my boot camp participants.
Mhm.
And I mean, I tell them even at the beginning, I will teach you how I was taught, but there is so many different variations. So if you want to try something else, go for it. And if
Yeah.
you want to try, I think it's called like the unloaf method, where you're just using like cold, unfed starter. You're not letting it, you don't do your stretch and folds. You don't let it bulk ferment. And they get these gorgeous loaves, which is great. Like, that's totally fine. And people were doing that last week in my group. And I'm like, good for you. Like, I'm glad you found something that worked. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you is fine with me.
Yeah. Oh, and it sounds like that you're very accepting of people and you're not gonna like beat people down because
Yeah.
that's one thing I've seen in some of the groups out there. It's just like they just get so like worked up over the littlest things. And it's like, I just want to eat bread.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm-
Yeah.
so do you teach just how to make a basic loaf, or have you done other classes on like how to use the discard for other recipes, or do you do other recipes and stuff like that too?
I do it all. The main thing we focus on in the boot camp is the loaf, but I put in other recipes that are kind of easy to start with, discard brownies, discard cookies, things like that. Um, in my continuing education group, which is called Sourdough Mafia as well, um, I do some more hands-on videos. Like I've shown them how to make bagels, how to do inclusions a certain way. We actually have like guest sourdough speakers every single month in there, and a scoring artist who shows us like different ways of scoring, like gorgeous loaves, just incredible work. So they get a lot of continuing education in the group after the boot camp once they kind of have like the basics down.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the boot camp is where you start. That's how
Mhm.
somebody would get started. So is there like, obviously there's a cost for getting in, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I charge $50 a person. That
Okay.
includes supplies mailed to you anywhere in the United States. And it's a 3-week event on Facebook, right? So there's only 3 live videos, but there's different posts that they can read. I think it's a total of like 15 posts over that 3 weeks. So it's not, a ton every single day, but there's a few throughout the week. There's some fun giveaways that they can win, things like that. And then it also includes their entrance into the Sourdough Mafia education group as well.
Okay. Wow, that's cool. I mean, that's just buying supplies alone is more than $50 usually. So
Right.
if
Yeah.
you get stuff included, that's awesome. So then the next after you do the 3-week program, is it just kind of like an ongoing Facebook group and you have like weekly videos, or what is that like?
Right. It's just the ongoing Facebook group. I wouldn't say weekly videos. There's monthly videos though. We usually
Okay.
have the pouring artist each month. And then I usually have a second like sourdough expert. We had a gluten-free sourdough expert come in and kind of teach us about gluten-free sourdough because that's a whole different thing. And
Right.
not just as easy as swapping it out with like gluten-free flour. So she taught
That's what
us
I've
all about
heard.
that. Yeah. This next month we have a person coming in who's actually in talks with like a local, I think, retailer to get all of
Hmm.
his recipes because his sourdough stuff is incredible. And he's known for doing like this beautiful purple oob loaf, which
Mm.
is like powder, and he's like mastered it. It looks incredible. So he's going to come in and teach us how to do that. So each month it's just somebody different that kind of knows more than I do, I guess, or it's like a different, maybe they have like a different area of expertise in sourdough,
Hmm.
just to teach us that as well.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like it's a great place to find, if you really want to expand your knowledge in sourdough baking and stuff like that, because it's really, I mean, that's one of the things that I've seen is just how different it is than normal baking and normal cooking. Like, and it's not that it has to be complicated, but I think it's just the possibilities of the things that you can do with it and the things that you can make with it are just, it's almost endless,
Yeah.
and the more
Yeah.
you study it and the more you understand how to convert maybe a traditional recipe into a sourdough recipe, or, you know, I think I jump ahead of myself. Like, I really probably should have spent a little longer trying to master just a basic sourdough loaf before I tried, because I've tried bagels and they all turn out good. I mean, they're all edible, but it's kind of like, okay, well, that wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. Or I love making ciabatta rolls because those are just some of my favorite things. But yeah, I think I love that there's so many ways to learn about this out there that, and it sounds like your community that you're building is probably a great place to be. Um,
Yeah.
you know. So what do you think sets you apart from some of the other, obviously you're not judgmental and militant about how people go about their stuff, but what else kind of sets you apart from the other people that are out there?
I think I'm the only one I know of, anyways. I could be wrong, that is doing a like a class like this where it's an
Mhm.
ongoing education. Not only that, but I still answer questions from people who joined a year ago. So they get a lot of personal help where
Mhm.
I feel like if you do an in-person class, it's kind of like you learn, you might be able to ask a few questions afterwards, but continual questions, I don't know if everyone has that patience or desire to do that. So I have people and I tell them, like, I don't care, message me anytime. I don't mind. I mean, if I'm sleeping, I probably won't answer till I get up, but other than that, I pretty much live sourdough. Like, that's what
Right.
I do these days. And so I don't mind answering questions. And I just feel like the class is really nice because so many people can do it at their own pace or when they want to start. I had somebody just from my October boot camp reach out last week and they're like, okay, I'm ready to start now. like, like the holidays were kind of crazy and I know it's May, but you know, and so I just
Yeah.
kind of walked her through it and she was able to still go through the videos, all the posts, at her own convenience and kind of start and just, do it on their own timing.
Okay. Well, that's cool. And so do you, in the stuff that you send out when they sign up for it, do you send them a starter?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And is it dehydrated or is it like,
It is, yeah. The
okay.
first class I ever did like this, even though it was virtual, I just did it where I was locally. And I had like 20 people sign up and I gave them, just liquid starter for
Hmm.
mine. And I was thinking, like, how can I expand this? Because if I want to advertise in a different state or something like that, or, people were asking if their grandma or mom who lived in Florida could do this. And I was like, well, how would I be able to do this? And then I thought, I'll just dehydrate the starter. So that's what I do. I'm constantly dehydrating like a ton of starter all the time throughout the month. And then they each get their little packet of it and they get to name their starter and kind of learn how to take care of it. And I also offer free replacement starters to all of my boot camp people, which is super
Okay.
helpful because, sometimes people's starters get moldy or they forget about them or they accidentally bake it. There's all these
Yeah.
things. Um, and I don't want them to ever be like, okay, now, where do I go looking for a new one? So
Yeah.
that's included in the cost as well. And there's been a few people that actually need replacement ones a few
Yeah.
times. So
That's awesome because
mm,
I know that, people buy starters out there all the time and
yeah,
from what I've seen, there's you can buy a starter from someplace and it maybe not is not proven to work, I guess, if that makes sense.
right.
So if they've already used yours once, they know it works and, then they're not going and using someone else's starter that came from who knows where.
Right, yeah. And I feel like, people say, you can make your own, which you absolutely can. But I kind of like things that have a history to them. I like knowing that the starter has been used for generations. Um, so that's kind of what I go with. And I think it does make a difference if you don't have a strong starter. It's going to be a pain to really get some really good sourdough loaves going, as opposed to them just getting a strong one right off the bat.
Mhm.
I think it just makes it one less headache in the process.
Right. So you mentioned to me before when we were talking that you guys travel. So
Mhm.
you spend how long in Arizona? Is it 6 months or
We
kind
usually
of?
spend just like about three
Okay.
in the summertime. Like I said, we're kind of opposite of snowbirds. So we like the summer in Arizona. We love the heat. Like I know most people are like dying down there, but I love it. I feel like it's set up for the heat down there. If you're in northern Nevada, where I am currently, if we hit 100 here, like we're not set up for that kind of heat. You don't have misters everywhere. You don't have, aircon in every little place you can think of. So it feels different to me when it's hot here. But when
Hmm.
you go down there, it's totally different, and I think it's great. But we are looking to buy our second home down there so that we can spend, more throughout the year for sure.
That's cool. So do you just bring starter with you when you come?
Um,
Do you do
I
any baking in
can.
the summer when it's 112?
I would probably. I just lately have not. Normally, if I'm traveling down there, it's more for like a break and a vacation. So my starter goes to live in the fridge for a little while. But yeah, once we get the second home, I think definitely I would be baking down there. And I don't even think it's that bad. Like I know it's super hot, but you would just do it in the morning and you'd be good.
Yeah, I know it's about in the 90s here right now. And
Yeah.
I want to say when I baked my loaves, I actually just baked them all at the same time last night because my house got kind of warm and I was baking at night and it was, but it, I think that's maybe it's a wintertime activity out here depending on how how your house runs but yeah I love the fact that it seems like it's a very um how do I like what's the word for it you can take it with you if you
Yeah.
are traveling. I've seen people who live in RVs who still bake sourdough. I think it's a good hobby for people who like to do that type of thing and like to eat like to eat bread because that's definitely me. um
For sure.
so how like what other kinds of businesses have you had in the past before you did this?
Um, my parents, when I was pretty young, like right out of high school and college, they used to have like a small parts assembly business
Mm,
that they did outside of their, like in their home. So I used to help with that. Even in high school, we all were a part of that. We all did that. And they really taught me the value of like entrepreneurship. Sorry. And just kind of being your own boss and working for yourself. And so, I got married and my husband was like, "Oh, you should stay home with the kids," which I wanted to. And we quickly realized that that does not pay the bills. So even though I wanted to stay home, I just feel like in this economy, even 20 years ago, you really needed a dual income for things to be, comfy, or if you wanted to take vacations and things like that.
right.
So we just started continuing to work for my parents. And then we moved from that into me doing wedding cakes as a side hobby. And then from there, moved into kind of like furniture flipping, where you get
Hmm.
furniture, you fix it up and resell it. But a few years ago, my husband hurt his back pretty good. He's a correctional officer already.
Hmm.
So he wasn't doing that. He was flipping furniture a lot and going to pick up a lot of things. And it kind of I kind of halted that for us because I didn't want him like, lifting heavy furniture and re-injuring himself.
Right.
And so we were thinking, like, what else could we do? I've done, essential oils before, and I
Mhm.
still use those and everything, but I just feel like with COVID, everything kind of changed for what you can actually do as a side hobby, and
Yeah.
everything definitely went virtual. And
Right.
so that's when it's like, oh, kind of starting in the sourdough business on the tail end of that time frame, and thought I could do this all virtual. So even if, one day there's another shutdown or something like that happens, it would not affect what I could do business
Yeah.
wise.
That's awesome. So have you had any official like business classes or anything like that? Or is there anywhere that you have like books that you've read or anything that has helped you kind of expand your business?
Nope. Nothing.
Wow.
One of my good friends is a virtual assistant and she's very business savvy. So sometimes she will help me. Like she runs a lot of my social media, tells me what I should be doing, things like that. Um, but otherwise, no.
Okay.
Definitely
Well, that's
I have
really
to.
cool.
Yeah.
So pretty much, I mean, I've kind of, I'm very similar to you. My parents always had kind of a side, always had something on the side besides their regular
Mhm.
jobs. And so I think when I was about 21, 22, is when I had my first, like, I want to have a business, like just, I've always had something that I've been doing on the side. And some of them started with a hobby that turned into, oh, you should sell this, like I think my first thing that I started making was I made my sister a baby book out of wood and I painted it and like, put all the pages in and made everything kind of from scratch, like scrapbooking, because I was really into scrapbooking and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But like, it's just that I think there's certain people that just have that thing where you just everything, like you're always thinking of like, how can I turn this into something else besides just, and some of it just comes out of like, if I'm going to buy all this, stuff to make what I want to make, then how do I make that make sense, I guess, financially? Like, and then so my previous business was an Etsy shop. I had bought an embroidery machine and taught myself how to do machine embroidery. And then so I started making blankets and then people started asking me to sell them. So, it's just like, I think that there's a certain type of people out there that just kind of, people gravitate towards them and I don't know. It's interesting, but I never had any like formal business education. So I did start teaching myself a little bit about business and reading books and stuff like that. So that's kind of where, I've gotten a good background of business education. So if you haven't read it, one of my favorites is called The E-Myth. And it sounds like you don't really The E-Myth is by uh Michael Gerber. It's like it's on my shelf. Like I know I have it here. So Michael Gerber, he has the E-Myth and it's the entrepreneurial myth. So it's a really good book. So if you haven't read it,
That sounds
it's
great.
great at explaining, you know, people with the entrepreneurial mindset and just the shift that you have to make as a business owner. But it sounds like you've kind of got that stuff under control, but you might really like it. It's a good book. But yeah, so where can people find it's a Facebook group, so you're on Facebook. Yeah.
I'm on Facebook. You can't join the education group unless you've gone through the boot camp. So it's kind of
Okay.
like an exclusive bonus for that. But you can find me on Facebook, but I feel like there's probably 3 million Heather Rodriguez's on there. So the easiest way would probably be on Instagram. And
Okay.
that's under sourdough underscore mafia underscore co. And you
Okay.
can message me there and or comment on any of my posts and I can get you added that way.
Okay. And that's how people would join your group then and then get into the boot camp and everything. All right. Well, that's really cool. What do you have coming up in the next, month or two, like that's going on for people? Just same
Um,
thing.
Same thing. I'm already booking out for June. I have a few
Okay.
people that have already joined that one, and I'll probably just continue running them each month as long as I have people that want to learn. I just got done last week up at Harrah's at Lake Tahoe. I was contracted to do an in-person class for them, and that
Oh,
included like one of their executive chefs and everything up there, which was pretty fun to do in person. I feel like online is a little bit more my jam. Because sourdough is such a process that I find it hard to like fit all the info in like an hour and a half class. It's a lot of info, and that's like so overwhelming. I feel like to get it all at once. But it was fun. It went well, and I just thought it was kind of nice to be able to teach that skill to people that are already executive chefs, but they just don't know how to do sourdough up there.
Yeah,
So
that's
that was,
cool. And
mhm.
how did you, because you're right, it is a process. And it takes hours. So how do you fit, did you have to like bring dough that was like ready to bake, or like
And
how did
yeah,
you
we
do
kind of
that?
made the dough in class because I feel like that's kind of the harder part is trying to
Hmm.
get the consistency right and doing all of that. And then they went home with instructions basically on what to do next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
because I was
definitely
like, that
have
would be
to
really hard.
yeah, it was crazy,
You've got
but
all
it was
these
fun.
loaves of bread baking. That would have been really cool. But yeah, I
Yeah.
can see how that would be a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, it was
So,
definitely took a lot. I'm like, how should I structure this class? Like, so yeah, it was
well, it
definitely a
seems
lot.
like you did really well. And I'm sure they'll be asking you to come back and do another one, at some point, which is awesome. I mean, that's when you, as a business owner, you kind of feel like, okay, well, this is, it's cool because then it opens up more possibilities for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank
And
you
for
for
everyone else out there, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy our podcast, and make sure you subscribe to the Next Level Awareness wherever you find your podcasts. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, please email me at nextlevelawarenesspodcast@gmail.com, or you can look us up on Instagram or Facebook.